All right, I think we are live. Yeah. Just. Okay, so I am having a bit of a few AV issues with our webinar platform. Let me know if you can hear me live in the chat to the right. I'm on my laptop now. My iMac, which I was going to present on, is over here. Didn't want to work over there, so I'm going to be presenting on my laptop, which means now I need to switch the webinar stuff to be over here. Not rehearse, but over here I want to rehearse so I can get my presenter notes. So I usually have my laptop here and then my iMac here. So yeah, hopefully this will work. It's a new platform I'm using. It's Demio. Didn't seem to work on my one computer, but it's working on this computer. So hopefully that will work okay. So let me just quick show hands. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Hold on one second. Okay, cool. Yeah, I need to make sure my presenter notes are on. And sorry, I'm just trying to get the other computer set up, working as expected. I want to show the timer. There we go. Cool. All right. Cool. Audio looks good. Video looks good. Awesome. I'm going to be back in a few minutes. I just want to say hi. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves. I'll be back in about 3-4 minutes to kick things off, to get a drink, and then I'll see you guys in a few. Is I will share my screen. Yep. And then there. Let's go up to the top of the presentation. Hopefully that looks good. What I'll actually also do is I don't have access to, well, yeah, I will. I'm going to load up the chat on my end over here. Let me actually just register myself. Well, no, let me see what I can do. Okay, I'll figure that out later. But I wanted to make sure it all looks good. Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes. All right, we are back. I was getting a drink. For those asking what happened, I just wanted to, I was going to get a drink and checking to make sure all the AV stuff was all good to go. Okay, so we're going to kick things off. Welcome, everyone. Let me, I don't know if you guys can see my screen okay. I will just continue talking, and then I'm going to jump into the slide deck. So let me give you a quick overview of what we're going to be doing today. So last week, as some of you know, I was in Austin, Texas, speaking at 2 different events, one of which was the Sean West Conference, and the other was SumoCon. If you were at any of those conferences and you're here, well, you're going to see an encore of the exact talk that I gave last week. But it was really well received. I think why it was well received had nothing to do with me. It was more the fact that you go to a lot of these marketing conferences and you see, similar talks about getting more traffic, about, copywriting, about whatever else. And I think for a lot of people, the concepts we're going to be talking about today with personalization are still pretty new. So what I'm going to be doing in this talk is I'm going to walk through three different things. The first is kind of the theory, the high-level theory around personalization, what it is, why it works, and so on. And then I'm going to move into kind of a walkthrough of a personalized funnel in action and what that would look like and how it would work and so on. And then finally, I'll be sharing some statistics about different things that I've done along with others have done to both increase overall conversions, but also the effect that they've had on, whether it be opt-ins or sales. So if that all sounds good, oh wait, you guys can't hear me? So everyone can hear me now. Good, awesome. Audio and video sound good. Let me turn off my. I'm talking actually to the owner of Demio on Facebook, and I was asking him why this wasn't working. So, if AV stuff sounds good or is doing good, I'm going to jump right in. This is being recorded, so hopefully the recording will have all the. Basically, if you have any AV issues during the live presentation, hopefully the recording will be all good to go. Cool. All right, so I'm going to kick things off. So I need a sync on my laptop's end and my desktop's end. They were going to be reversed to get my slides. Cool. All right, so this presentation is called Start Making Sense, How to Use Personalization to Massively Increase Conversions. I want to kick things off by giving you a story. So a few months ago, back in April, I was in Las Vegas at a conference. And any of you who have been to Las Vegas know that as you walk down the Vegas Strip, there are call to actions everywhere. Every hotel has giant lit up signs trying to get you to come to their show or to get you to become a member of their, whatever gambling program they've got. And then on the street, you have people passing you flyers. You have little cartoon character type people trying to get you to do whatever. And then you have people just trying to kind of accost you while you walk up the street. So I'm walking up the street. I'm becoming immunized by or immune to all these different call to actions that are hitting me from every which way. And then I hear somebody yell, "Hey, we've got a promo tonight for guys walking down the street with their hands in their pocket wearing a blue shirt." I'm not in a blue shirt now, but back then I was in a blue shirt, and you can probably guess I had my hands in my pocket, and it caught my attention in a way that nothing else really did. I actually stopped and I reflected and I was like, okay, this is me. And granted, a second or two later, the person in a green shirt or a red shirt got the same pitch, but ultimately this was something that caught my attention in a way that kind of the broad appeal call to actions on the Vegas Strip were not doing. And this is where I want to start this conversation, because this is something that I think a lot of us could benefit from, whether we're selling for ourselves or our clients. It's important. It's getting harder and harder, really, with every passing day and year, to stand out online, to make an impact. And one way of doing this that you see often is people going and having really niche down websites or niche down marketing campaigns. But what I'm going to be sharing with you today is a strategy that you can use, a strategy called reactive messaging, where instead of having a one-size-fits-all approach to the way that you talk to people online, you can specifically hone in on speaking to individuals, or I should say segments, based on who somebody is, how they're behaving, where they're coming from, and so on. So next slide. There's a great, one of my favorite books that I read when I was in college was Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And I know quotes of his get thrown around, but it is a really good book, even if you just are interested in classical literature or specifically military type stuff. But one of the lines in when he was talking about the idea of individual battles and why it's okay sometimes for armies to lose battles is because he's talking about how what really wins the war is strategy. And I would propose that for most of us who are trying to make an impact online, the war we're fighting is trying to get people's attention and trying to get them to see that we can help them in a way that others can't. And the problem is that many of us don't really have many tactics. We don't have a specific, or we have tactics, but we don't really have a strategy. We'll go and we'll read articles about getting opt-ins by doing X, Y, and Z, or different articles on Facebook messaging or this or that. And we have all these tactical ideas, but what we really need is a strategy. We need something cohesive that binds everything together. So how do we win this war? How do we win the war of attention? Well, I would argue that the way we win this is through relevance, by being relevant to people. You know, since the dawn of time, if I wanted to sell you something, if I was speaking to you in person or maybe even over the phone or something like that, when I communicate to you about the product I'm selling, I'm going to tailor the way I speak to you based on everything I know about you. So are you a past customer? How long have we known each other? You know, in your great-grandfather's day, if you were buying a tool, he might have actually bought it from a tool salesperson who had sold other stuff to him. And he would have asked about the family and how things are going and how, you know, if he was a farmer, you know, different things about his growing season that year or something. Because they would have this relevancy between I have tools to offer and you have a farm to run, and we're going to figure out how the two of us can work together. And that's how people sold. So we haven't really done this online. Some people have. The big companies, the Amazons, the Netflixes of the world are using personalization, and they're using it really effectively. It just hasn't been accessible to a lot of us. But why does it work so well? Why does, for instance, why does niching work so well? So just a quick recap. Niching is, instead of having a general, say, product or course or book or something, the idea is go down and sell that or market that to a specific type of person with a specific type of problem. So in my case, I have project management software, but I marketed this towards freelancers who were struggling with client transparency. So the problem was, by being not as transparent as possible with their clients, they were running into issues with clients not trusting that they were getting everything done that they had to get done, or that they were maybe billing them too much compared to what they were charging and so on. And that's, you know, when I created this product plan scope, that's what we did, is we focused on that problem. We took project management software and cast it to that need. And that's because we increased the relevance of this software to somebody actually suffering with that problem. And likewise, why do content upgrades convert so well? So for those who don't know what a content upgrade is it's a opt-in or a call to action on a website that, instead of being like a join our newsletter or join this email course or something like that, it's specific to the article that the person just read. So if somebody's reading an article on, say, starting a freelancing business, a content upgrade might be a checklist or a worksheet directly related to that article. And these tend to convert 5, 10, 15, 20% of anonymous people into subscribers. Whereas if you were to ask the average, say, blogger, what percentage of people who read an article and then opt in your newsletter, it's usually maybe 2%. So they convert extremely well. And why do they convert? Well, they're relevant. If I'm reading an article on starting a business and you give me a checklist about starting a business, that's very relevant to me. Whereas if I'm reading an article on starting a business and you say, join my newsletter or get this, guide on to project management or something, there's a disconnect there. Likewise, why do so many software companies, mine included, use live demos? Well, we use live demos because we know that if I can get on the phone with you and ask you point blank, so what drew you to the idea of personalizing your website? Or, you know, tell me a bit about the business you run and how you get customers online, and what kind of feedback have you gotten from people maybe who were confused about your offerings and so on. By doing a live demo, I can speak to them and then take my product and show them specifically how my product can help them uniquely. So again, more relevant to them. There's a great article by one of my favorite kind of, I guess you could call her a thought leader / author on the internet, Kathy Sierra, who about 10 years ago, she wrote, or 11 years ago now, actually, she wrote a really good article on personalization. So she was explaining how she was working on a client project that what they needed to do is they took this kind of like kiosk, they would put it like a conference or an event. And instead of just having like the quiz, so it was a quiz type thing where you choose like, why you wanted a car and, for what reason, price, safety, and so on, what you cared about in a car and so on. All her and her team did was tailor every subsequent page's headline, and that's it, to be based on the previous answer. So if you said, I care about safety, the next screen would say, well, what is it about safety that you really that you really think of when you're purchasing a car or something, versus just the generic headline to the next question. So at the beginning of this article, she talked about how she had this quote that said, the good salesperson knows it isn't just about the benefits. And a lot of us talk about benefit first kind of sales and marketing, where instead of talking about features, you're talking about specific benefits. But what she argues is that it's really about the benefits that people care about. I mean, it's one thing to say this will help you in this way, and this way, and this way, and this way. But what people on the receiving end want to hear is, well, how does this help me specifically, right? So marketers and advertisers have known this for a while. And with the advent of mass marketing, they realized it wasn't enough to try to sell a train ticket. Instead, they had to sell an event or in this case, this is an ad from probably the 1930s where they're promoting an overnight train, right? Go from point A to point B. But you can tell through the language and through the imagery on this that this was ran in a fashion magazine, and they knew that the people reading the fashion magazine cared about the way they look and their the way people think about them and everything else. And they specifically honed in their copy to focus on specifically not just that will get you from A to B, but instead that you'll arrive in style, you'll dine like a king, and your meal will be royally served, and so on. And that's what we've been doing. That's what we've had to do in this age of mass marketing, where we aren't individually speaking with somebody. Now, back in the day, if I was trying to sell you a ticket on my train and I knew that you cared about this kind of stuff, I might present my message in this way. Whereas if I'm speaking to a business traveler who needs to get to that meeting the next day to close a big deal, I might speak to them quite a bit differently. So how do we sell online? So that I just gave you an example of the way kind of magazine style advertising, but what's changed about the internet? Well, I would argue that there's really three different ways that the majority of us use or three different channels or mediums, I should say, to sell online. The first of which is advertising. So this is how we get ourselves in front of potentially new people. We might run ads on Facebook. We might do AdWords. We might do something like that. What we're able to do nowadays, which I'll talk about later in this presentation, is using advertising as a segmenting tool, which in my mind is really, really interesting. Not many people have thought about this or really have done this in such a way where they're documenting what they've done. But this is one of the things I'm going to be sharing with you that I think is really a good tool that you can use for remarketing traffic and so on to better understand who's visiting your website, who's buying from you, and so on. And the next is your website, which is kind of the bread and butter. I mean, it's where people go to buy stuff. It's where people go to opt in. It's where people go to read articles of yours. It's where people go to learn about you and your business. The website is kind of the thing. It's the thing that both generates leads and also generates sales for most of us. And then finally, there's email. Email is, for many of us, the glue that ties it all together. So a typical pattern is you might have somebody click an ad that goes to a landing page. The landing page converts them into a subscriber, and then they get a few emails, and then maybe later on, in a few weeks or months, they get pitched on a product that then brings them back to the website. These are the kind of things that for a lot of online businesses, whether you're selling a service or products or you have an online store or whatever it is you're doing, these three mediums are kind of the material that we use to convert and sell people on the internet. So this brings me to kind of the crux of what I want to speak about today, which is what we're calling reactive messaging. And reactive messaging at its core is just the assumption that, look, it's not enough to say the same thing to everyone. We need our communication, the way we speak to people, to react to the signals that we're receiving. So what does that actually mean in practice? Well, for one, reactive messaging, it takes into account someone's behavior. So what are they doing? What are they reading? Are they attending webinars? Are they viewing videos? Are they listening to our podcasts? What are they doing? What are they engaging with on our kind of online ecosystem? Because we can tell a lot by what somebody does. So for instance, if somebody's reading articles on closing proposals, but they're not reading articles on marketing, my assumption would be, and this is usually correct, that they're probably doing okay marketing. They're probably doing okay getting leads, but they're having an issue closing them, right? So what can we tell about somebody who's having an issue closing leads but not getting them? Well, we probably have different ways of helping them. And instead of trying to promote to them maybe our product on helping them get better at marketing, we could promote something and helping them close more deals. Second, it also attempts to determine their demographics. So who are they? What kind of work do they do? Maybe if you're selling something like fitness products, asking them, so how old are you? And are you male or female, or whatever else? Because this matters, especially when showing social proof. So if you're showing somebody a testimonial, people wouldn't generally want to see themselves in that testimonial. So in my case, let's say that you're a web designer, you generally want to see testimonials and social proof and examples from other web designers like you, so that you can understand how does this actually help somebody like me, versus seeing developers or copywriters or marketers or so on. You generally want to see people just like you, because it lets you know, okay, other people like me have done this. Because with a good case study, with a good testimonial, the person on the receiving end wants to put themselves in the shoes of that person, of the person that they're reading about or looking into. Finally, it's empathetic. It understands who the buyer is and what they're actually looking for. So this is a big one. This is kind of really the crux of it, which is if I'm speaking to you, especially if I'm trying to convince you to do something like, I don't know, like join my newsletter, or purchase a product of mine or something, you need to understand that I know what it is you need. Because it's one thing to give you a product. It's one thing to say, here's this project management tool. It's a different thing to say, look, we've designed this project management tool to help with X, and I know how crappy X is because I've either suffered from X, or I've done my due diligence and I've talked to people and we've researched people who suffer from X, and that's what we're responding to. We are reacting. Our product is reacting to X. And likewise, the way we communicate our product needs to also react to these signals. And finally, it's aware. This is a big thing that I think a lot of us don't really take into account, which is somebody actually prepared to be a customer? Is somebody prepared to take the next step and maybe join a lead magnet of yours, or book a sales call or something like that? With reactive messaging, what we can do is we don't need to just look at behaviors and demographics or whatever else. We can also look at, well, where's somebody in our funnel? Do we not even know who they are yet? If so, probably doesn't make sense to actually try to sell them on anything. They don't trust us at this point. Or maybe they've been on our list for a while. They've been really highly engaged. Well, if we're going to go and promote something like a premium coaching offering, well, these are the kind of people that probably are best prepared or best conditioned to be ready for this. Because a lot of what we do as people selling online, a lot of the audience building stuff that we hear so much about is really about preparation. It's about helping somebody see how can we actually help them, because a lot of people who enter into our audience are not yet ready to completely become a customer within our audience. So what I would argue is that it's really not enough to have targeted landing pages or hello first name in your emails. We need to deliver to our readers, our customers, and so on, or our clients' customers, personalized end-to-end experiences. So at the bottom of that is really this concept of continuity of messaging, meaning if I read an article of yours and then opt into a lead magnet about X and then start getting emails from you, there should be some sort of continuity. It shouldn't just be, okay, I just opted into your project management guide and now I'm getting a bunch of stuff about marketing, or a random newsletter about marketing and then this and then that. Or I just bought this and now you're kind of putting something else on my plate that you're wanting me to buy, and it's not really, it's not taking into account that relationship or who I am or whatever else. And there's a really good book. I think one of the things that helped me really refine I guess the way that we think about reactive messaging or personalization is there's a book by a guy named Steve Krug who it's an old design book called Don't Make Me Think. And the premise of this book is not that people are stupid and don't want to think or anything like that. It's just that when people are moving around the internet, they don't want to need to think too hard about how you use your website. I mean, it's primarily a usability book on the idea that people don't want to learn how to navigate your website. They want kind of tried and true ways to move around and find the information that they care about in a really easy to consume manner. But the same is true of messaging. The same is true of, if I'm reading a website and I need to think too hard about how does this actually help me, they've probably lost me, right? What I want to read is I want them to do the hard work. I want them to tell me, how can this actually benefit me? How does this impact me? And that's what we're talking about with reactive messaging is we're saying, instead of making somebody decipher how this course on pricing can benefit them, instead do something like what I'm now doing on W Freelancing, which is, if a web design blog sends me traffic and then that visitor comes over, I assume that anyone from that web design blog is probably a web designer. Now, let's say that they're reading articles on, value pricing or something like that, and they've been reading a lot of these articles. I programmatically clock behind the scenes that they're really interested behaviorally. They haven't told me anything, but based on their actions, they care about value pricing. And then let's say they join my email course, and I ask them through a series of worksheets, what is it how big is their company, how established are they, and so on. By the time they ultimately get to, in my case, the W Freelancing Rate sales page, if they're a design agency who's struggling with value pricing, then they're going to see a course really designed for design agencies who want help at basically learning how to price on value. Whereas a freelance developer who has no clue how to price because they behaved in a certain way to, they're reading my starting articles and so on, then they're going to see a different message, a slightly tweaked message, different headlines, different social proof, different everything from like the way I, instead of the word freelancer, swapping that out with freelance developer. And this is what we're talking about, making it so not only is the way that we're presenting our products more insightful to the people in front who are engaging with them, but most importantly, you want to be able to see this. How does this actually help me? How does this help me based on who I am, what I need, and really my relationship with you, right? Another great quote from that article from Kathy Sierra is the following, and that is, when it comes to your features and even your benefits, one size does not fit all. We want to try to find ways to connect what we do and have to do, or what you do or have to what each individual finds personally meaningful. I need to edit that quote. It trips me up every time I read it. But basically what she's getting at is that, again, it's about what people find personally meaningful. If you have a one-size-fits-all approach to the way that you communicate with your audience, or the way that you write a sales page, or the way that you market, you're gonna lose people, because what you're making happen is somebody needs to see, how does this generic speak actually apply to me? And that's why all the people with super niche businesses do, generally pretty well, because they're able to focus in on a single persona, on a single type of person, and write to them. But for those of us who have products that could benefit a lot of different types of people, but don't want to go out and build, double your freelancing rate for designers, double your freelancing rate for programmers, and so on, but want to have a specific product, the way to do it is to niche down our marketing, so that what we're doing is at scale, we're able to speak directly to people based on, again, who they are, how they're behaving, and what our relationship is with them, so that we can help them really clearly understand, how does this benefit me? So how do we sell online? How do most of us who, whether we have a services business and we're trying to get leads that then turn into customers, or I should say clients, to make it really personalized, right? Because most consultants don't call their clients customers, or you're selling things on an online store where maybe you're getting people to your store and then you're getting them to buy something, and maybe later on they get pitched on more stuff to increase their customer value. Or you have maybe an audience-based business where the whole model is people come to your site, they opt in, and then they get some emails from you, and then they're sent more educational emails, and then later on maybe they're pitched on some product, and then afterward maybe they're upsold on something more premium. This is a kind of a standard model, and this is a model that works extremely well for this concept of reactive messaging. So let's get away from theory and now let's talk about specifics. So what would this look like? What would a reactive marketing or reactive messaging funnel look like in reality? So here's what I'm going to do. Let me get a good sip of tea first. So we're going to assume, because I think more of us need to do this, is we're going to assume that the person I'm about to show you, her name's Mary. She's 22 years old. She is, she's Googling around for information on a supplement called creatine, which anyone kind of in the strength training or bodybuilding world knows is a, I don't know if, what you would call it, a powder or something that is supposed to help you build muscle faster. So she's Googling this, and the reason she's Googling this is she's training for a triathlon, and she wants to, be in her best shape and so on. And that's what led her to the Google search box. So she goes to Google and types in creatine unbiased review. So again, she's 22 years old. Her name's Mary, and she organically finds her site. So in this example, I'm going to highlight a friend of mine, Sol, who runs examine.com. And what they do is they have all these different supplement reviews, from everything from strength training supplements to things that help you lose weight, to help you sleep better, to help you have more clarity of mind, and all these different types of things. So a lot of people come to them for different reasons. Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to get stronger. Some people want to sleep better at night, and so on. But right now, the issue is, so let's say I'm Mary, I'm clicking through to this site. Here's a great article. It's a very in-depth article about creatine. However, there's a lot of competing call to actions. There's something about a free supplement course if I'm confused about supplements. And then right to the right of it, there's an unbiased encyclopedia on supplements. I don't really know how they're different, but I guess they are. And then there's some insider thing that's saying join 100,000 other insiders. And again, I'm at this point, I'm looking for strength training stuff. I want to compete in this triathlon. So she gets what she needs and then she leaves. She leaves the site, right? And this is what a lot of us would, this is kind of the way that why, a lot of us have crazy high bounce rates. It's because people come to get what they need. We have all these different call to actions that are all vying for their attention, kind of like that Las Vegas Strip example, and then they leave, they bounce. Well, what if examine.com did something like this? What if instead, what if they had for all I know, they probably do, I haven't checked, but say they had the Facebook pixel running on their site. So Mary, when she came here, there's a pixel that tagged her, which is how if you're ever on Facebook and you see products for websites you were just looking at and so on, that's what they're doing to do this. So let's say examine.com has this, but instead of doing a standard one-size-fits-all remarketing campaign that's getting people to join their insiders club or whatever else, let's say that they're saying, well, if somebody reads an article about a supplement related to strength training, let's target them and push them into a funnel that's related to some strength training email course they put together. But instead of just doing that, instead of stopping there, which is where I think a lot of us would stop, let's instead do something like this. Let's make multiple variations of this ad and have one of them targeting women and maybe another targeting men. And then let's break it up into groups of like 18 to 30, 31 to 50, 51 and up, and something like that, right? So you could have multiple ads that are running depending on what Facebook knows about you. So Mary goes over there. Examine.com has no idea who Mary is. However, because the Facebook pixel's there, Facebook knows who this person is. And they're like, oh, this is Mary. She's told us she's 22. She's female and so on. And what Examine.com knows is that she's interested in strength training. So there's kind of these 3 different data points: strength training, female, and 18 to 30, right? Facebook gave us 2 of those data points. We know the other based off of the fact that she behaved in a certain way on our website. Well, when we push people back to, so let's say we run an ad. When we push people back to our the landing page of the strength training thing, Facebook's not going to give us the info that we want about, the person who just clicked is a woman and she's this age and she's this and that or whatever else. However, because we have very targeted ads that are only going to women or only going to women who are 18 to 30, we can pass safely as a parameter in the URL we send over to our site information saying this is a woman and she's between 18 to 30. So that when she gets over to our landing page, that will all be there. But the ad she'll see, and this is what we're talking about with continuity. She's not seeing a man. She's not seeing somebody who's older. She's seeing somebody who probably resembles her in some way. Talking about getting in the best shape of your life again. She wasn't looking for supplements on sleeping better or whatever else. Now she's seeing an ad specific to strength training, and there's somebody who probably resembles her in some way. So when she comes over and clicks through, again, there's continuity. There's another woman, and now it's 7 everyday ways to add serious strength training to your routine. And you can imagine that if this was a 55-year-old man who had read our article on examine.com and is looking at his Facebook feed, he'd probably see, somebody above 50 doing, something in the gym also with maybe the same headline, but just a different image. And when he clicked over, he'd see again, somebody like him, social proof showing maybe the language that I just took this straight from lead pages. I haven't modified this much, but I could see different ways that I might change this landing page to be different depending on how old you are, male or female, maybe even where you live, different things like that, right? So what we've done is we've taken data out of Facebook, we've taken demographic data out of Facebook, we've passed it now into this landing page. So now if they were to opt in, if this person were to click get lesson 1 right now, I'm using Drip on my back end, but you could probably do this with anything that supports custom fields. But I could pass in this gender info and age info into the subscriber record. So now what do we know? Well, if she opts in, we know she's interested in strength training because she joined the strength training lead magnet, the email course. She's female and she's 18 to 30. So we know this now, right? Let's imagine that first lesson we email her over, we send lesson 1 that she just opted into. We want to know why. This is something that's worked really, really well for me, where if somebody joins something free, if you were to ask them point blank, what is it that I can help you with? And make it so it's not, at first it could be a reply. And I'm going to talk about this later, different ways to figure out different intents. But later on, you can make these trigger links, where a trigger link is just a feature that most modern email marketing apps have that allow you to say, if you click this link, set this custom field value or apply this tag or write this information on this record. So in this case, she gets lesson 1 and saying, well, what is it before we send you lesson 1? Why do you want to join this? And what is it you're training for? And, we might have 3 options. I want to train for an event like a triathlon. I want to lose weight, or I just want to get stronger. So let's say Mary clicks, I want to train for an event like triathlon. This is exactly what she's doing. Everything down funnel from here will be focused on her interest, which is strength training. Focused on her demographic, 18 to 30-year-old women. Focused on her intent, which is training for a triathlon. So we know all this information. So I can't see the chat, but you can probably guess what the next slide might look like. So now let's say it's time to promote to her our, examine.com's premium product. Well, what do they have now? She's landing on a landing page that's saying, do what it takes to complete a triathlon. She sees, again, somebody in her demographic. The quotes she'll see down the page are going to be people like her who are probably her age, who have also successfully used examine.com to help make them more prepared to compete in a triathlon. Whereas, again, let's say a 55-year-old man was here who wanted help losing weight. He's going to see something very different. Could be the same product, but the way that the product is described is different. And this is what I believe that this is the next, really I hate the whole big thing or trends or whatever else, but I really do think that this is the thing that it's now more accessible than ever to do this. It didn't used to be the case. I'm going to give you examples later of companies that have had to hire whole engineering teams just to do the equivalent of this. But this is a very hyper-relevant pitch. It's reacting to Mary in this case. It's saying, it's not calling her out by name. It's not saying, hey, Mary, you're 22, you should buy. Instead, it's making a lot of subtle changes to the way that she's communicated with from beginning to end that makes it so when she's facing the product, facing the communication, she sees how this helps her. So what kind of results are people getting from this? I'm going to start with my own, then I'll talk about a few others. So those of you who've been on my website, Double Your Freelancing Rate, you've probably seen at the top, it's got a smiling picture of me, but then it has this opt-in for an email course. Well, at the top, you see the top image, you see what happens if you are incognito mode, you go to it directly. It's going to say 20,000 plus freelancers raise their rates, right? And then there's an email opt-in and a drop-down box asking you what kind of work you do. If you came from a web design blog or a marketing blog or a blog like Jonah Weeb's, like Copy Hackers, which is targeting copywriters, if you clicked over from one of these sites, I register it again in the back that you are probably, I'm assuming that you're probably, a designer or a writer or whatever else. It's not foolproof. It's not scientific in any way, but it's usually accurate. And then if you start reading articles predominantly about, let's say, proposals, the second call to action you see is going to, or not the second, but the second image you see here, if you were to go back to my homepage, is going to be talking about designers writing proposals. And I've done the same across all these different articles on my site where you, instead of just seeing like a call to action for my lead magnet, instead I describe the lead magnet in such a way that aligns to them and the way they're behaving. So who they are and how they're behaving. And I want to, before I go to the next slide, go to the chat and just type what percentage increase of opt-ins you think I got from doing this. I'll give you guys a few seconds to get those in. So again, what percentage lift is the kind of the marketing speak for it, but how many more subscribers do I get on an ongoing basis just by changing, again, what you saw? I'm changing the language here, really just the language, the way I'm describing a central lead magnet. So just go in the chat, type in the percentage, and click send. So I've gotten a 250% increase in overall opt-ins across wfreelancing.com just by doing this. It's not even a lot. It's kind of in the sweet spot between content upgrade. Now, my content upgrades do a lot better, do a ton better than that. However, it takes a lot of time to build out custom content upgrades, like checklists and worksheets and everything specific to every article on my site. So what I've done instead of, I said, look, why do content upgrades work so well? They're relevant. Well, what's not relevant? Join my newsletter, or here's some random thing you should opt into. The sweet spot is saying, how are you acting? And what might I know about you? And how can I combine all that to generate a dynamic call to action that speaks directly to you? And that's kind of getting me right in between. So instead of getting about a 2%, I'm getting more like I think it's about a 5-ish% overall opt-in rate from my site, which is huge. I mean, getting 250% more traffic is significantly harder than doing what I've done to make this happen. So let's look at another example. So this is one of my sales pages for WFreelancing rate. So again, let's say you're a designer and you're struggling with value pricing. You come to this page and it's speaking to you as a designer. You even sort of see the word, why do some freelance designers charge thousands a week? Tired of being bossed around and making little money as a designer, and so on. What, again, same thing, just put in the chat. This is all I've changed, by the way. I haven't even gone and changed the testimonials out yet. I'm still working on compiling testimonials across all the different types of people who have bought and so on. But in the chat, just let me know and what you think that the funnel that leads people here, the funnel of email course to the sales page, after I've gone and just tweaked wording, what kind of effect do you think that's had? So I'll give you, a few seconds to do that. Again, just type the percentage increase and click enter. So we've gotten a 70% lift in sales from that page just by doing that. Again, people, if you're a designer and you land on this, you're like, okay, I could see how this helps me. And where I got that from was, I think it was about a year and a half or so. It was a pivotal email I got. It was from a copywriter who wrote me in saying, hey, Brennan, I was referred to your course. I heard good things about it, but I'm reading it over and it looks like it's targeting developers and designers. Can this actually help me? And I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, it's a course on B2B sales. Of course it can help you. But, she didn't know that. And I was able to salvage the sale over email. However, it really, I think, left a mark on me saying, how many other people thought that? How many other people thought that and closed the tab instead of actually writing it? So again, this is the kind of stuff. It's if I was at a design conference chatting with people, at a networking event, I'm gonna describe what I do different to them than I would to maybe somebody at a business conference or somebody at a programming conference or my mom or something like that. let's look at somebody else. Let's look at Intercom. So most of you probably know the company Intercom. They hired a engineer, or they kind of repurposed an engineer internally to dynamically build out a bunch of opt-in pages that they would drive paid traffic to. And they would segment the traffic and then change the image and change the headline. I think generally the paragraph, or the page is mostly the same. It's the headline, the subheadline, and the image that change. And they were able to get a 300% increase in paid traffic or in lift for the conversions that paid traffic were getting them. So that meant their advertising budget was cut in a third, basically in a third. So, ask anyone who spends serious amounts of money on advertising. So if you're listening and you're a freelancer or you're an agency or you're running your own stuff and you're paying a lot of money on ads, what would it mean to optimize your conversions rather than optimizing your cost per click or whatever else, which really is something kind of out of your control. The biggest pushback I get from this is, well, this is a lot of stuff. This is very complex. There's, do I need to write 50 versions like Intercom did? Do I need to have hundreds of varieties of sales pages? Well, no. It's really just about making small tweaks to start, and then maybe over time making things more complex. So this looks great, but where do I even begin? So I'm going to walk through a few different things, regardless of software. The only kind of minimum requirement is that you are using an email marketing app that supports things like trigger links. So Drip, ConvertKit, Infusionsoft, tools like that do. That's really, I think, the only minimum that I've got in this next thing I'm going to show you. But first things first is you need to develop customer personas. You need to understand who's buying from you. So let me make sure I've got my notes on my other display so I don't miss anything. Okay, so let's say you have an email course or newsletter opt-in or an email that gets sent when somebody signs up for your product or something like that. What you should be doing first is, before you come up with any sort of quantitative measurements, quantitative surveying, you need to figure out exactly what drew people in. So for instance, say you have an email course, ask them, so, in a sentence or two, who are you? How do you best describe yourself? And why did you quote unquote buy this? Why did you give me your email address to join this? Why are you giving me your attention? Like, what is it you want from me? And get it in their own words. Because what you want to be able to do is you want to eventually normalize this into something that you can turn into one-click surveys or something more behavioral behind the scenes. But what you want to do, and this comes straight out of like the Amy Hoy playbook of safaring, which is just hearing what people say in their own words so that you can then incorporate it back into your own marketing. But you want to compile kind of a compendium of how are people describing themselves and how are they speaking about why it is they're engaging with you, right? Because what that's going to allow you to do is, over time, this isn't going to be a long-term thing. This is going to be something you do now. But once you have the data that you need, you're going to then use that in different ways that will allow you to automatically segment people. So another kind of tip that I've used a few times, or try to use really as often as I can, is the trick of, and this really comes straight out of like the jobs to be done playbook, which is when somebody buys, when somebody opts in, you're fresh of mind. They know exactly why they just bought. They know exactly why they just opted in. Whereas you ask them 5 days later, what they tell you might not actually be fully accurate. So a little trick is, let's say somebody opts into your list, email them. Say you're looking at your subscriber list, you see me pop up, email me saying, hey, Brennan, first off, this is not an automated email. It's me right out of my Gmail account. I saw you opted in earlier today. Would you mind if I jump on a call? I just want to ask you a few about kind of what led you to my website, what you were looking for. I saw you join this email course. I'd love to hear a bit more about kind of what I can do to make it better for you and kind of your whole experience better. And this is a really great way to not only create better rapport with people that you're hoping to one day be customers of yours, but for $1 a minute, you can pipe these recordings off to a service like rev.com, and they'll give you just raw transcript data that you can, again, use as this glossary, this compendium of how are people speaking, how are they describing the issues they have, and so on. So once you've done this, you want to then correlate the feedback you're getting with demographic data. So let's say somebody says, hey, Brennan, I'm a designer. I heard about your stuff from so-and-so. I joined this email course because I'm hoping that you can help me with X, Y, and Z because it sucks and, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, this is a designer, right? So I can then go, and my favorite way of doing this is just a spreadsheet with different columns for every different kind of variation on a type of segment. So let's say business type. And then under designer, how do they keep describing their stuff? Under developer, how do they keep describing their issues? Writer, marketer, and so on. And over time, I can start to associate different ways that people are describing themselves to different discrete segments, but also I'm starting to see what segments exist. So a mistake I made early on was I had a few different core segments, or you join my email course and I'd ask for your designer, developer, marketer, writer, and so on. And then I'd have other, but a lot of people were choosing other. And I was like, what could they possibly be doing? And some of them were outliers, but then when I followed up with them, somebody who does user experience didn't call herself a designer. Instead, she put other. And in my mind, I mean, it's all design, right? Like at the end of the day, it's kind of design. But I realized that I was describing it incorrectly. So now I fixed that. I've been able to take data, qualitative data, and turn it into something more quantitative that I can actually run reports on and also use to help me personalize the experience that they have. So you want to get this data and normalize it down into something that lets you see how, what are the different discrete segments we have, and also what is the way that each of these segments talks, and how does it differ across different segments. So the next thing is, well, once you've done this, now it's time to start thinking about how can we behaviorally or explicitly segment. And this is where things get a little more interesting. So the example I gave of, there's demographic segments that you could probably get out of Facebook that help you more with case studies and social proof. That's something you can do. I just did this for Write Message yesterday. It's really simple to do. But then there's more interesting things like, well, how do we maybe use trigger links when somebody joins our list and ask them, in which way can we help you? So then they tell us. That's going to now be that's an automated way now for people to self-segment into a specific segment that then you can then affect things downstream. So trigger links are a really good way of doing this. Really more advanced stuff is behaviorally looking at how do people act with your stuff? What kind of content are they reading? What categories of content? Where are people coming from? What can you tell about these different websites that people are coming from? The software we're building, Write Message, takes a lot of the behavioral stuff and makes that really simple for people. But if you don't use our software or don't want to go down that rabbit hole that deep, a quick and easy thing is just to use either trigger links, or maybe you send people to like Typeform, and then you use Zapier to hook up Typeform with your email marketing app. And you can say, if they choose this, if they say this, then apply this tag or write this custom field. And if they do that, do this, and so on. And that gives you the ability to kind of on an ongoing basis, not only to really hear back and get people to engage in a way they hadn't before, but also to learn about, metrics that you can then use to actually, you can use to act on. You can say, if they're of this segment, then change the image on this page to that, and change the headline to this, and do this and that. And that's where things start to get really fun. Another thing is content upgrades. So say you are doing content upgrades. Well, it's not enough to just say, look, they read the Start a Freelancing Business article, and they did the content upgrade that got them the checklist. Store something saying, look, they read a starter article. They're reading an article about starting a business. They are not looking to grow. They don't have anything yet. So we need to speak to them differently. And maybe we don't pitch them on our high-end stuff because they're not ready for that. They're not prepared to buy that yet. So we can offer them something else. So you should use landing pages that are targeted or content upgrades to help you segment. So if somebody opts in on a certain article, and that's what they came from Google, you can probably assume they went to Google and typed in, how do I start freelancing? They found this article. What does that tell you? They are not looking to grow an agency, right? And we need to remember that and act on that. So I talked about already trigger links and other ways of progressive profiling. I like trigger links. I like surveying. They're both really good ways to explicitly ask people to segment themselves, but you can also do things behaviorally, like I mentioned earlier. And then when you started doing this, when you have this kind of flywheel that's getting people to self-segment themselves, then you want to have different pathways that go down and speak to them differently, right? Depending on what they choose. Now, some tools like Drip and I think ConvertKit make it easy because you can have a single email and you can have if-thens within that email saying like, if they have this tag, show this paragraph of text. Otherwise, if they have this tag, show that paragraph of text. Otherwise, if they have this, show that. And that allows you, I mean, I've done newsletters. You probably haven't noticed this if you're on my Double Your Freelancing list, but hopefully it's helped in a way where I've said, look, if you're a designer, when I describe this article on my site, I'm going to describe it differently than if a developer is reading this email, or if a marketer or whatever else. And I've actually seen very, very big lifts in click-through rates just by doing that, which is again the goal. I want people to actually read the stuff I'm writing. So it doesn't need to be complex. It can be simple if-thens. You could say, if they're a customer, show this, otherwise show that. If they're a customer, describe the product differently to them because they've already bought from us and they have a different experience with us versus somebody who's never bought with us. And finally, clone your sales pages. So instead of having a single sales page that tries to speak to everyone, make variants, make permutations of your sales pages that might just change, the testimonials or the headline or the images or something like that, and make it so designer sees this, developer sees that, marketer sees this. Fill in the blanks for whoever you're targeting. But again, this is something that Right Message does very simply. You don't need to clone anything, but without a tool like Right Message, you could just take your sales page and make copies, and it becomes a maintenance nightmare, to be honest, over time, but it can get you out of the box or out of the gate, the effects or the results, I should say, of personalization fairly quickly. And finally, please segment your reports and your financials. I know a lot of us take pride in our conversion rates. A lot of us take pride in our value per subscriber or average customer value, but you should be able to break them out by segment. You should be able to say, well, how do designers convert to this lead magnet versus developers? How do what's the value of a writer versus the value of a photographer? And the reason for this is, you want to be able to act on this data. So somebody who converts really well and is very valuable, you want to get more of them immediately. You want to go out and run ads to them, or go find joint venture partnerships where you can promote to people who have audiences like that right now. But the ones who are weak, that's the opportunity to better personalize. So if somebody has a weak segment or is in a weak segment where they're converting at maybe a third or a fifth of the strongest segment, what does that tell you? It tells you two things. Either they just can't benefit from you, or maybe they're really cheap or something like that as a whole, or more likely, you're losing them. There's something being lost in translation. They're looking at the language you have and everything else, and they're not seeing how this helps them. So a few other things I'm going to run through real quick, kind of some other edge ideas that you could think about. Big one is hiding opt-ins. If somebody's on your list, do not show them an opt-in form. Do not show them a welcome mat. Do not show them a slide up. Do not show them an exit pop-up. That is a bad user experience, and it's a waste of real estate. Why? You just emailed me a link to an article. Why am I getting hit with an opt-in, right? It's something we're actually rolling out now, finally, to the Right Message site. We've done this for Double Your Freelancing, but now we're taking our own medicine, or we're taking our own advice and dog fooding it. And, you're going to see different things if you're already on our list versus not on our list. Personalized call to action. So if again, how are you behaving? Where do you come from? What articles are you reading? And then let's make our call to actions reflect that. Branded referrals. This is another kind of untapped thing that a lot of us could benefit from. Who's sending you a lot of traffic? Do you have partners who send you traffic to your site? Do you have review sites that review your software and send traffic to your homepage? Well, if so, make your headline the best quote from that review and say dash, name of the source they just came from. You're able to say, the example I like to give is people, Pat Flynn sends a lot of traffic to ConvertKit. Well, the traffic he's sending when they're looking at ConvertKit, they should see lots of pictures of Pat because they trust him. They should see quotes from Pat about how awesome ConvertKit is. And they should see front and center, this is the tool that Pat Flynn trusts with, emailing his audience, right? It's simple things like that make perfect sense. Any good salesperson would say, oh, Pat referred you. Let's talk about how awesome Pat is. Oh, here's what Pat does with this, and so on. And it's just, it's these things that I don't think a lot of us have thought about doing online, but this is the way we've been doing things offline for, since forever. Dynamic landing pages. So just changing your landing page based off of the ads somebody clicked on. Instead of having 50 different ads or 50 different landing pages that match your 50 ads, have a single landing page that changes itself depending on the ad that was clicked on. Relatable case studies. Show case studies from people that are like you, right? Focused homepages, if I'm reading a lot of content about a certain thing, if I land on an industry-specific landing page that's targeting a certain type of industry or targeting a certain type of need, well, when I go back to the homepage, continue speaking to me that way. Don't go back to generic speak on your marketing site. Speak to me. And this is the kind of thing. It doesn't matter if you sell online or if you're a consultant who has clients who you're building websites for or apps for. I mean, these are things that give you a huge competitive advantage because you're just doing things that have been done forever. But again, we just haven't been doing it online, or it's been hard to do online. And the last thing, this is something I'm working on now, and I find this to be a lot of fun, which is this concept of a viral content upgrade. Typical content upgrade is you have an article, you have a content upgrade, type in your email address and I'll send it to you. Well, what if they're already on your list? Why are they typing in their email address again? What if instead you could say, share this on Twitter or Facebook and I'll send it to you, right? So you're incentivizing them. Instead of asking them for their email address, now you're asking them for, to share it or something like that. And what this will do is this will get, them to share it. And then let's say somebody clicks through from Twitter, they're anonymous. Now they're going to see an email opt-in for that content upgrade instead of the social share. In my mind, personalization is really just a strategy for winning the war for the hearts and the minds of our customers, both future and current, by really just communicating more clearly with them. It's all we're talking about doing. It's not about, this or that, or it's just about making it so if I'm reading a website online, I want to be told how this helps me. Just like if I was at a store and a salesperson came up to me, I'd hope that they take into account who I am when describing the product to me. And that's all we're talking about, is just doing this online that's accessible. It doesn't require you to build out a whole engineering team to do just this like Amazon does, but instead making it super simple so we can get a lot of the benefits, but without the cost, the time, and everything else that usually comes with it. So I'm going to open it up to Q&A right now. One thing I want to make, point out to you guys is we actually have a full course that is actively in development and should be finished really by the end of next week. It's called the Personalization Masterclass. It's usually $197. If you pre-order it through this webinar, you can get it for $97, so basically $100 off. If you geek out on this stuff and you want it more tactical, more digging in and saying, well, how do you actually develop personas, and how do you actually do this, and how do you actually do that? We're just in the finishing processes of wrapping up the course. We already have a bunch of lessons already posted, with 2 more coming actually today. But we're rounding the, we're almost at home with this course. And if you like the idea of personalization, I'd check it out. And also, one other thing I want to mention, you've probably got an email about this already. We have turned off customer signups for RightMessage. So just to give you a quick backstory, we brought on 50 customers and then we turned it off. We stopped doing demos. And the reason we did that is we're working with the 50 people we have now to help rebuild the UI and the onboarding and making it really stupid simple to use. And if you've been following me on Twitter, you've seen teases of the different the screenshots and everything else that we've been pushing. It's coming together really nicely. But we've officially turned off signups until we launch in about 2, maybe 3 months. However, we are bringing on 5 new customers a week, people who want this now and don't mind that it's mainly meant for power users at the moment. It's not very intuitive, but it does everything you need it to. So what we've done, and Chad's actually here, or hopefully he's still here, but Chad's helping us by basically working with 5 new customers every week, getting them all set up, working with them over the phone to get their first campaigns loaded in so that they can start getting the benefits of personalization. I think we have like a 3-4 week wait list right now, but if you want to get on that list, just shoot Brennan at rightmessage.com an email. You can also CC Chad at rightmessage.com, and we'll get you in the queue. And we have a little survey we'll send you that helps us better understand how we can help. But with that said, I want to open it up to you guys. You guys ask a lot of awesome questions over email about measuring and how to get started and stuff. So now that you've seen this, I just want to turn it over to you and see what I can do to help in any way. So I'm going to turn off screen sharing. Cool. All right. Okay, so there's some questions about personalization. Guest asked a quick thing about the dollar minute transcripts. That is rev.com, rev.com. Okay, cool. I'll ask a good question about, so how do you start selling this as a service without any historical proof of ROI? I think all you need to do, frankly, is just, I mean, well, there's a few things, right? You could say, oh man, this is killing my battery. Hopefully that, I'm going to turn off my display or turn it down a lot. So let's say you're working with a client who's like, okay, I get this, but why, you know, how do I know this will work? So a few things. First thing that I would do is, first off, ask them, the trick I use is ask them to sell you on what it is they sell. So let's say, they sell widgets or whatever. When they speak to you and communicate the value prop of the widget to you, they're going to tailor the way they speak based on you, right? They're gonna, I mean, it might not be conscious, but they're going to change the way that they communicate the product you're selling. Any good salesperson does this. They're going to change the way they communicate based on who you are, how you're acting, and what they know about you. So that's all we're saying is, what if you have a sales team or you've sold anything offline, off the internet, have you done that? Yes. Have you seen that that's worked? Yes. We're talking about making that more, making that happen on your own website versus just making that possible over, a high touch sales channel, like a phone conversation with a salesperson or an in-person meeting or something like that. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so it looks like a bunch of Sebastian asked ETA for right message going public. So we're hoping to do a soft launch by the end of the year and then a big launch in January with a big public push. But like I said, we're still bringing on about 5 customers a week at the moment. So we should have about 100 paid customers by the time we go live. Active Campaign, yes, is live. So yeah, we actually just pushed that last week. Okay, so how can we achieve personalization without a Shedload of additional work? Okay, so I was hoping I helped with that a bit, but it seems like I didn't. So bare minimum thing could be have a trigger link or have 3 trigger links that you ask when people join your list, let's say, and then depending on which one they choose, just have 3 variations of a sales page with different headlines, different something. I mean, again, it's one of those things that you don't need to go all out. A lot of people get overwhelmed thinking you're either personalized or non-personalized. The way I started was 4.5 years ago. I just said, if you're off my list, or if you're on my list, don't show an opt-in. If you're not on my list, show an opt-in. That was it. And then I got more complex and said, if you're on my list, show basically the pitch for PlanScope, because I was running PlanScope at the time. And then it got more complex. It's not either you're personalized or you're not. It's either you start to slowly introduce things that make the experience of the people using your stuff a little more reactive than it is right now. So I'd start small. Start with like the trigger link thing I said. Start with hiding opt-ins for known subscribers. It's just things like that tend to work pretty well. Any other questions? I'm going to just scrolling up if you have questions, shout them out. I'm here to help. I like looking at somebody got the 250% right. Nice. Or I can't tell which one. Yeah. Guest got it right. I wonder if Guest was at my presentation in Austin. And somebody else said 70. Cool. Okay. Good question. Okay. So do you put names located? Okay. So there's a school of thought, not a school of thought, but one of those like little things people geek out on with personalization is like, hey, Brennan from Virginia, it is currently, what's today? Thursday. Like making that the headline. It's like, okay, well, how does that, first off, how does that help me? That's gimmicky. And secondly, this stuff isn't foolproof, right? You might get things wrong. You might assume things incorrectly. So I like more soft personalizations that are not outright saying, hey, first name from location on date of week or whatever, day of week. That doesn't really achieve much. It's kind of more creepy, I think, to be honest. But what I like is more saying, well, making it so you can look at, again, what kind of stuff are they consuming? What do you know about them more passively, and just making it so maybe the people they see testimonial wise are a little more like them, versus just having it be, straight up spitting out data from your database. So I generally don't like that kind of explicit form of personalization. So this is being recorded. So Demio is recording this automatically. So I'll be sending out a link to the recording. How do you know when someone is on your list if they're not logged in? Good question. Okay, cool. So when there's a few different authentication events that can happen. One of which is if somebody opts into your list, you can now say, okay, they just opted in, write a cookie or something saying, tie them now with this subscriber record in our email marketing app. So that's one thing. The other is, let's say that they click a link in an email you send them. Drip does this out of the box. ConvertKit now does this if you enable a setting in your settings profile. With a lot of the other email marketing apps, you can do this too. But you can make it so identifying information gets passed along to the website about maybe the ID, the subscriber ID of that person who just clicked through. And then you can remember, you can have a two-way connection between the two. So I can pull data down and I can write data up. So I can say, pull data down about who they are and what, how they bought stuff from us or whatever else. But then I can say like, hey, they visited the pricing page. So I should write a thing up to Drip that says if they don't buy within 5 hours of viewing the pricing page, maybe make a note in our CRM saying, hey, you should reach out to them about this product or something. So usually it's through a click or a opt-in event. And the good thing is, even if they were to flush their cookies, if they or go on a different device, if they then click through in an email, you're kind of relinking them. But obviously, if they clear their cookies and go in incognito mode, there's really nothing you can do there. Okay, so if you're already in a super niche business, so Elise, who is helping basically people who sell honey. So yeah, very super niche. I think a few things you could do. First off, relational things like have they bought from you? Are they on your list? That kind of stuff does help a lot. I don't know how niche you might be able to go further, Elise, there, but I mean, a lot of what is covered in the masterclass is more focused on tactical things you can do with personalization, not as much about like you might, you already know your customer. They're so niche that you have a very good profile of who they are. So you might not get as much, to be honest, out of those modules. But can you talk about what to personalize when someone is logged into my app? Yeah, okay, good one. So you have an app. You presumably have a sales page or a marketing site, right? If I am a customer of yours and I go to your homepage, why are you trying to get me to sign up? Why aren't you getting me to upgrade? Why aren't you getting me to stay a customer, to unlock features I haven't used yet? And that's the kind of stuff that I think for software businesses, that's a huge thing that you could do, where you could say, like, if they are already a customer, don't try to get them, they've already drank the Kool-Aid. Why are you getting them to sign up again? So instead, maybe try to get them to do something like, upgrade their account or, do something they haven't done before. And this is really big too. If you think about it, say you're doing any sort of business where you get people on your list and then you send them articles, and then you drive these people back to your blog as you get new articles. Well, if you're anonymous, you want people who are reading these articles to opt in. So Google sends you traffic. You want to get those people to opt in. But if they are known and say they haven't signed up for a trial, get them to start a trial of your software. If they're trialing currently, get them to go to like a webinar that gets them to convert. If they're already a customer, keep them a customer. So maybe, promote something or maybe get them to pay annually or something like that. And this way, the beauty is you just drive people, your whole list, subscribers to customers, back to your latest blog article, and everyone sees a different call to action depending on the relationship they have with you. Okay, so Nisa asks, can we do progressive serving on a web page? So yes, if you use my library Drip Pro tools, which we give out to Right Message customers alongside Right Message. In the future, we are building out a full surveying tool that will do basically on-site. Like you've probably seen this on my site, where I have a little widget that comes up saying like, which one of these are you? Click it. And the nice thing about this is we actually, because it's tied into your record that I keep on you, if you've answered this question in a different way, say you came from a different website or you told me through a trigger link, you don't see that question ever on the website. You only see questions I don't know yet. So yeah, that helps. Yeah, you could absolutely hide most content on your site until they self-segment themselves. Easy. Yeah, you can do that. Dean asked the plugin. It's called Drip Pro Tools. That is it's a part of my other course on automation, and basically for people who want to do progressive profiling on their site until RightMessage has it, we're helping them get set up with that, so they can basically use both tools to do the same thing. All right, so my battery's going to be dying soon, but I should be able to. If I disconnect, my battery died. I don't have my laptop plugged in because I was intending on having the setup switched. We'll write message to expiring offers that you use with Drip. Oh, there's the message. Okay, so yes, so basically it's not that we're going to do expiring offers. What we're going to do is allow you to, say, trigger some JavaScript that shows a countdown timer like I do. And then have write message basically look at the data within Drip to see, are they currently in this funnel, the pitch funnel? And if so, show a countdown timer and then grab data out of their subscriber record, basically a timestamp, and then use that to trigger the countdown timer. So yeah, we're basically creating like the if this then that of websites, saying like, if they are in our funnel in Drip, let's say, then we want to trigger this JavaScript that will put a countdown timer and change this and change that, maybe push them into a Facebook custom audience and do all these different things. And that's what we're really optimizing for, is being able to make it so it's not just about changing content, it's also about adding stuff or putting a countdown timer, or maybe even triggering a Zapier thing that gets them into your Trello, add a Trello card if you know who they are and they go to a certain page. So a lot of different options like that. Okay, so technical question from Sebastian. So what it is, it's client-side JavaScript that when the page is ready, it will just basically do some post-processing. If we need to hit an API like Drip, it can be a few hundred milliseconds, but we will hide the content being personalized until we hear back. But if it's all local, if we're just looking at cache data or query string data or whatever else, it's milliseconds. So usually the end user doesn't notice anything. But it doesn't sit, it's not a dependency, meaning it's, we're hosted on Amazon AWS. If AWS goes down, your people just see the normal site you have currently. It doesn't, like, if we break, it doesn't break your site in any way. They just won't see a personalized site. So we've designed it from the beginning with that in mind. Yep, cool. All right, so my short codes? I don't know what you mean by that. Shot codes? Not sure what you mean. What do you mean? Oh, short codes. Okay, you're talking about WordPress. No. Actually, it's even better than that. You literally, if you've ever used like Optimizely or Visual Website Optimizer, our editor, you actually go to your site, you click on like the headline or the image or the paragraph of text, and you change it directly there. There's no template weirdness or anything like that. You basically click on what you want to change, say, click the headline, say, change it to hello, visitors from WR Freelancing, and then you tie that change to saying if they're in this segment of people that came from WRFreelancing.com. So really, really simple. None of this shortcode crap. So, yeah, like Ken said, it's going to be, we've got a recording that once I stop, I believe it compiles, and then I'll be sending it out. Cool. So like I said, if you want I'll put I got to run because my computer's about to die. But actually, I got a power plug. Look at that. Thank you. So I've got a few more seconds actually. I've saved by. So if you go to writemessage.com/100 off, you can get 100 off. Like I said, the course, the in-depth course we're building on personalization. That also includes a free month of usage to WriteMessage, by the way, which ties into what Sebastian was saying. So it does, pricing right now is based on page views. So we have two tiers, one of which is up to 50,000 unique visitors a month to your site. That's $99 a month for up to 50,000. So if you have anything 0 to 50,000 people, $99 a month. If you have up to 1 million people a month hitting your site, it's $299 a month. So 50,001 to 1 million is $299 a month. We're going to be bringing out those tiers soon, especially when we go public, where we're going to have like the high-end tiers will have goal reporting and all that sort of stuff, more analytic-y type things, whereas the starter tiers won't. Yeah. How do you purchase the right message? So if you email, this is my email address, and then ccchad@rightmessage.com. So we don't have self-sign up yet. What we're doing is we're bringing on a maximum 5 people a week. We've already got the next few weeks already booked out. However, if you email us as soon as you can, we will then basically get you in the queue to be personally onboarded by Chad, meaning he will get on a call with you and say, all right, let's talk about your goals. What do you want to achieve? We will help you set those up within a right message. But once we have the full, beautiful onboarding, if you go to twitter.com/Brennan Dunn, go to my Twitter feed, you can see the last few days I've been hinting or retweeting Laura, who's been doing all the design work, basically the upcoming app, which is very, very intuitive. So we don't even need the self-onboarding that we're doing now long term, but while we design and build that, we're just doing it manually with people now. So you basically get free consulting if you are one of the 5 a week who join. Chad will work with you to get set up based on your goals, your objectives, and so on. Cool. So random question about up here freelancing rate. No, that's run on my own course where I built a thing on WordPress for that. The personalization masterclass is using with Coach because it didn't make any sense to build or to replicate our courseware onto the right message site. So it's a monthly, it's like a SaaS. So it's $99 a month for up to 50,000 visitors a month, or $299 a month for up to 1 million visitors a month. Contracts, commitment, usual SaaS type stuff of you just pay monthly and so typical kind of it's like signing up for any online service nowadays. Usually most don't have contracts any longer. So it is monthly, although we are going to have a option to annual. And yes, so this for those listening who are freelancers or agencies, there is a lot of potential and you effectively upselling your clients on this. If you're building them a website or you're doing any sort of marketing work for them, or even you're building them an app, ton of potential for leveraging Right Message to help you basically say, look, why don't I build you a reactive site instead of just a normal bread and butter marketing site thingy? How would I make one that actually reacts to who people are? What we're doing with that is we're building 2 things. First, we're going to have a certification program that will basically make it so as we get customers who need help, we'll farm these leads out to you for free. But we're also going to have a built-in affiliate program that if you say you get your client say you get a client project and you get them on Right Message, you'll basically get a kickback for life as long as they have an account with us. And it'll be like an automatic affiliate thing. But what we're building first is we're building a lot of material that's going to help you sell personalization as a service to your clients. So regardless of what kind of work you do, designer, developer, marketer, writer, whatever, we're going to help equip you with the tools you need to be able to sell your clients on this as an upsell. So Leslie, about what? About setting the system up? I mean, if you're asking about any time range, we're already live. We already have 50 paying customers at the moment who are using Right Message. Teachable is using us as a customer. We have a lot of different bigger customers. Guest, unfortunately, we don't have we're focused on building out the app, so we're not building out custom backend subscription models. But everything we have is backed with a full guarantee that if you don't get a lift, we'll refund you. So if you don't get the ROI you need, just cancel and we'll refund you last month. So kind of typical cancellation policy there too. But yeah, we're not able to do a custom pricing because it's more work than another big thing I want to mention is not that it's something to really brag home about, but I think it's important for us, is we just closed on a pretty big round of funding that's allowing us to scale up the team. So we're hiring right now. And what that also allows us to do is the people that are funding us are people who run a lot of the tools that we integrate with. So we're going to be seeing a lot of interest in helping make it so RightMessage natively integrates, or seamlessly integrates, I should say, with the email marketing apps and the CRMs you already use. So we've partnered with them. That's my job in the business, is to do things like this, along to forge all these partnerships, so that if you've got a CRM or an email marketing app and you want to have a seamless relationship between the website you're sending traffic to and the emails that people are getting, and making sure they're all in unison, that's what we're focused on doing. So a lot to share over the next few months with you guys on what we're doing there. Yep, works for WordPress. Works on any CMS. If you go to rightmessage.com, you can see our integrations list. Tested this on Lead Pages, ClickFunnels, Instapage, WordPress, Squarespace, Shopify, even. Yeah. So time range to set up the Kajabi. I haven't looked at either yet, to be honest, again. But that's on my list to research. Time range to set up the RightMessage service integration as a provider. Okay. So Leslie, I guess you're talking about the certification program and stuff. Yeah, that's probably not going to be until next year. But if you want to we already have customers of ours who are agencies who are using this on their client work, and we're already giving them an affiliate deal, kind of behind the scenes without an official program. So if you reach out to Brennan at rightmessage.com, just say, hey, I've got some clients and I'd love to get them on. Can I get a affiliate commission? And can we get, the RightMessage team to help me basically get my clients set up? I mean, that's what we're doing, is we're helping. For the time being, we're doing a lot of one-on-one with people. We won't be able to sustain this the way we are right now indefinitely, but we want to keep it, because we know that if you're not getting, either for yourself or your clients, the results you need, you're not going to stay. So we're doing a lot, because this is a big thing. This is, a lot of people don't know yet how to correctly do a lot of this, right? Like, personalization is still kind of a new thing. So we're working with a lot of people to make it so we can just help. We just want to help in brainstorming campaign ideas, helping measure results and all that sort of stuff. And slowly but surely, the product right now does everything it needs to do, but we're adding on things like automated reporting and recipes that will let you say, okay, what do you want to achieve? I want to get more opt-ins. Here are some different ways of doing that. You click the one, and then the app will walk you through setting it up on your website. Click on your opt-in and say, okay, I'm going to change it to be this if this is true, and so on. So that's really a lot of the stuff. The product's there. We're building the nice and friendly usability on top of it to make it so we can open the doors to everyone. But in the meantime, what we're doing is we're getting customers to basically work with our team to get them set up one-on-one. So any other questions for me before we, it's been about an hour 23. So I don't want to keep you guys any longer than I already have, but hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully you guys have got a lot of ideas about either what personalization is, how you could use it. I know it's still kind of a new thing, but between the masterclass, which is what we're shipping soon, basically at the end of next week, along with the software, our goal is to make it so really the experience that the every person can deliver to their website visitors or subscribers or customers can be a little more personalized, a little more tailored, so that we're not trying to say the same thing to everyone. So cool. Well, thank you guys. Awesome seeing you all. And I will shoot out the recording once I get it. Bye-bye now.